Welcome everybody in the brand new episode of the Product Planet podcast. Today I'm very happy with a new guest, Olivier. Olivier is the CEO of Lucid Analytics. He has a lot of experience in data project, data product, AI, and he will help us to debunk a bit what are the best practice to be successful with a data project, bring data into your product. Welcome, Olivier.
Thank you, Theo. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
I'm super happy to be here with you. Data and AI is a huge, let's say, buzzword right now. Everybody wants to put it in the product, in the project, change also their organization and be better at using this kind of product. You are an expert in the field since years now with Lucid Analytics. Can you present yourself, tell what you have done? What is Lucid Analytics?
Yeah. So I'm coming from, a dual background between the business expertise and the scientific field. I've been working in the field of data in life science since 2013. So that's kind of funny because I don't consider my career to be that long, but I'm a dinosaur, so to say, in the field as I started with statistics and biostatistics, grew with the fields into, data science, big data, to some extent, AI, to some extent. And we've been working mostly in the field of life science and healthcare. And regarding Lucid Analytics on our end, so the company is 3 years old. So I had the chance to create the company with my co-founder, Matthew. And we are helping our partners to make sense out of the data, to make them speak, and to reach their objective, thanks to our expertise in the R&D and innovation field.
I guess with this experience, you have already tried to help many projects in pharma, medtech, hospital. As I can imagine, some succeed, most quietly die or did not work. At least this is what I see so far in the industry. Can you help us to understand why?
Yeah, it's a lot have been fails, but I guess it's the learning curve of our society that we are trying a lot of new solutions. And data in healthcare fields is kind of a merge between the tech side and between the life science and health sides in a way. And so it's kind of that's a space where the two universes meet, where the tech space is evolving super fast, but where the health space is highly regulated. So I believe that's what brings a certain level of difficulty in having interesting and concrete projects raising, coming to life and being really interesting for our society. So it's a merge of several limitation actually that make it complicated.
Do you have in mind an example of a project that has been very successful that maybe you have seen outside of your company or that you even run within Lucid Analytics?
Yeah. So there are several projects which are, the question is what is successful actually? Is it the market's acceptance? Is it a return on investment? Is it the acceptance by the doctor or the patients? Because in the end, projects can have different different objectives. But some of the projects I've been observing, which have been really efficient, were managing to get a good support from investors, either internally or externally, either from big corporate getting the money from the top management, or startups getting the support from external investors. And also they were led by strong innovators who had the ability to take a strong ownership of the project and to lead it until the end. And I think that's a merge of these different elements, which made it really, really interesting and really efficient. Then you have various companies. I could quote a lot of these companies. There is Netri, for instance, in Lyon. There is Observia in Paris, which are two quite different companies. Netry is more on organ chips, and they have been able to really target the markets they want to address, and how to reach the researchers, and how to help them make the most out of their data for the health of the patient in the end. And here, that's part of the reason of their success is a very good support from the network and a good lead from the co-founder. Observia is more into hospital support, patient data, bringing the ownership to the patient. And here, that's quite political project as well, which has been successful as it is interesting for the patient, for the doctors, for the hospitals, and the added value is really concrete to touch. But leadership as well has been very strong and very important there.
Super interesting. And would you say that leadership were already strong in understanding data and the value of data, or this is leadership that has been learning on the way when you worked with them?
Well, as the data environment is evolving very fast, and these projects have several years of existence. It is learning on the way, obviously, because I mean, we're talking about AI now. We were talking about big data 4 years ago, 5 years ago, before there was data science and before statistics, biostatistics. So it's learning on the way, but with a strong fundamental, pragmatic approach eventually, and a really business-led exploitation of the data. So what's the real objective? What's the pragmatic way to reach it? And not necessarily only dreaming about the start product, being also really pragmatic on the first pass to get the low-hanging fruits.
And can you expand more a bit on this pragmatic and business-led approach? I'm very curious to understand what you mean by that.
Yeah. So on this, this is a personal perspective, obviously. So all I will say is limited to my own vision. But the data solutions I have observed or supported in the development, the ones which are useful and which have been insightful, are the ones which integrates the experts from the beginning, as in quality by design, as in integration of the experts in the methodology and the objectives. So that's about how to integrate the doctor perspective in the healthcare-oriented solution, or the patient perspective, and how to make sure that is gonna reach their expectation, ease their life, and be adopted as well. Because if the experts is being questioned first, then the level of acceptance will be higher, obviously, because it will be built by empathy, so to say.
Good. And I would like to start a bit now with taking a bit more like real life example. I'm a product manager. We can get a lot of data from software as a medical device. We are sitting on plenty of data.
Mhm.
So I've been trying to do many data projects around my product, for instance, but I'm not the only one in the industry. If you had to name some of the main reasons why data project dies, what would be your top 3 reasons? What are the main reasons you see data project failing in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of why do data projects die, there are several reasons, of course, and each company is different. Then I could name 3 main issue that I have been observing. One issue is the ownership. Well, I was talking about leadership before. Ownership and leadership can be the same, so to say, or are quite linked anyhow. So here, that's about who owns the product, the solution, and who will build it, who will lead the team, who will ensure the reliability of the product, and who will ensure also that the investment is there and that the low-hanging fruit will be reached to start with. In my career, I've been observing actually different companies, well, big pharma, two big pharma company starting exactly the same initiative in the IoT space. One of these company really succeeded with great outcomes. The other one, well, tried and they didn't really reach their objective, and the project was then stopped. One of the main reason, if not the main reason, was the ownership of the project and who took the lead of the project. On the second reason of the failing of this project, I would say the regulation actually and the compliance side, which are sometimes not taken into account early enough. Because, well, when you are starting a project, when you're starting a proof of concept, then you start with your dream, which is completely logical because you have your idea, you want to reach it. And it's really nice. But when it comes to the next steps after the proof of concept, so you have to address the regulation side, and then your time to market becomes really difficult to reach. You're losing few, if not many months on the regulation work and the compliance of your products. And I'm not only talking about, compliance in terms of legal side, but it's also in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of validity and validation of the solution. So this is another element which is a key point to take into account when you're starting your data projects as well. And then on the third one, but which is led to the previous one, I would talk about the scale up side, which I introduced actually with the regulation. When you go after the proof of concept, after the minimum viable products, then you have to think of the compliance, the regulatory, the cybersecurity, the infrastructure, the legal side, the IP, the business development as well. It takes a lot of time if you have to do the BD by yourself. And all these different elements, when you're trying to do the scale up, it can really burn the company. Is it only limited to data products? Not necessarily, actually, but it's an element that I've been heavily observing as well.
All right. And when you mentioned the compliance part, did you see a huge impact of having the Data Act now in place on the time to market?
The chance we have in the health industry is that the regulation is, when it's well managed, taken into account early at least. So if you look at Basel, for instance, there is the Day One, which is a great initiative boosted by Basel Area. And so here they are really supporting startups to grow, to do the first proof of concept and to integrate different elements of expertise. This is only one of many examples in Europe that support the new temple creators and the innovators. So in our specific fields, I would say no, as the regulation side is normally taken into account. So if there is a fail on the Data Act, then it means that eventually there was a fail to be coming on the regulatory side in health as well.
All right. So we kind of have a moat as a healthcare company already. If we want to move into data, compare maybe to the experience of the tech company that try to move into the space.
Slower, but well, these are two very different ways of developing.
Yeah, that's great. And that's great to hear that how entrepreneurs, product people that want to build solution can get support for this kind of topic, data hacked or the compliance part from day one. I think it's a great ecosystem that we have here in Basel to support us building product. So very great to hear, and a little hello to them if they listen to the podcast today. Also, we are talking a lot about data so far, but I would say that the buzzword now is moving from data to AI project, which for me is a bit similar, to be honest. At the end, we are manipulating data. How do you see hype around AI and building AI product? Is it very different from building data product from your perspective?
So when I talk with a partner about an AI product that he or she wants to develop, I just take a few minutes to ask, what's an AI product for you? And then there are several projects which are being started and that are labeled as AI projects, but which are data projects actually, but need to be labeled as AI eventually to get some money for the proof of concept. And that can then develop into really AI afterwards to some extent. Today, there are heavy investments into AI project, AI solution that is hosted by top management of big corporates, as well as by investors who are more interested in this than in quantitative science, so regular biostatistics or statistics, or by business analysis or business intelligence solutions. Then AI is always a side of the global projects. Actually, it's a tool, it's a methodology. Eventually, it has an applied mathematics background behind, so that's something never to forget. Actually, a good AI model will have a good statistician behind to ensure that the algorithm will be applicable and will be efficient and will answer the needs of the business. So that's super important to ensure the quality of the AI solution. But then the most efficient way of reaching the low-hanging fruit, if you're looking for investors, may be to start with a little field of application, or a first application with descriptive statistics, eventually with something which is more into business analysis and with more pragmatic, to then evolve afterwards into predictive analysis for the future. These are some of the projects I'm seeing and we're supporting today, which have a great value for the future. I always see it as very positive when I'm talking with someone presenting me a data project and not stating AI once. And eventually I have to pinpoint it so that this partner never talked about AI. And it shows the mindset and the pragmatic approach of, let's start with a pragmatic proof of concept to then evolve into AI into the future.
Great. I will remember next time we interact. I don't talk to you about AI first. I will mention data.
What's the probability of the data area and why I love working in it? It's just limited by human creativity. Of course, there is the money. Of course, there is the regulatory side, but otherwise, that's only creativity, and you can do whatever you want. And that's the beauty of it. And AI has a lot of potential. And there are many interesting projects that are going on, which are pure AI. There are also some which should start slower, maybe just to test the market first.
Good. And do you see any specificity on doing data or AI product in healthcare, or is it very similar to any other regulated industry?
I see a specificity in the culture. So when we're talking about life science, we're talking with engineers and scientists, and usually this population has a strong knowledge or is highly sensibilized to the applied mathematics side. And so it means that there is a core understanding and a critical way of addressing AI in their daily work, but also for new solutions being developed. If you merge this population with the highly regulated area, it takes a slow-moving industry to create new solution, but which will have a high level of acceptance and which can actually be an inspiration for other industries. Um, it, our field, so the health field, is also highly regulated as the defense field, as the financial field. And today, well, in the defense field, if you see the AI side, all which is done in the AI development with drones or with image analysis from satellite, there are strong investment and very interesting topics as well on the scientific side. Then I think our field is really advanced on the mathematical, on the scientific approach, but goes slower than some other that are just coming a little bit behind us, but may be faster than us to reach interesting applications.
Do you have some example of other industry application?
Well, I have uh, some example in the retail sides, so e-retail, where actually it really depends on the company and on the country, and there are many different elements. And that's just one example, which doesn't necessarily represent the whole industry, obviously. But in this example, what I've been observing was a very strong application in the business analysis side, but a very low experience in the data science application. And that company I'm thinking of has been starting its first data science application recently because it has reached the ceiling with the business analysis side. And now it will develop interesting concepts into predictive analysis, how to be more efficient on their sales. Then that's one example of a company in Europe. There is another one actually in Japan, which is a very big e-retail company, which has been using, which I know from someone very close to me, who has been building very complex models in order to optimize the sales on the websites, given the evolution of the consumer in the different website they own, with this target of having the right price sold at the right moment to the right person, and right product and right price. And here, these were very complex models as well. Then there is still the regulation of GDPR that has to be addressed in this kind of situation. But yeah, this is actually another inspiration for us, I believe, and it's interesting to think cross industry and not to be limited to our own experience.
Definitely, I do believe that it's a very good, nice and interesting case study to look at what is done in some other industry. I like, for instance, to often take the example of banking that is doing a lot when it comes to this. And I like banking because it's also a heavily regulated environment. So
Yeah.
we cannot use our excuses, but we are regulated, so it's so different. I think here, when it comes to regulation, they're as regulated as us. And I think they have done, especially in digital transformation in general, a very nice job. When you see banking like 20 years ago and now, you see that everything is digitized and working very slickly. So now I think cross-industry knowledge and having a look at what other industry do is very, very important.
Mhm.
And I also have as a product managers, I now try to focus a bit more on the specificity of my role. We often have to start to learn how to bring data and AI in our product. Would you see a common misconception or trait that people that enter in the field of data product, or usually product people are already quite successful in approaching AI and data project?
Yeah, well, I'm sure in your case you're doing it perfectly, obviously.
I would love.
Okay, good. No, but eventually going back into an element I said earlier, that's about the scale up side. And then I was discussing with a friend actually a few days ago, who told me about the cost of the cloud, the cost of infrastructure that may raise heavily in the upcoming years as there are more and more data products coming, there are more and more AI products coming. And so all these products will need a stronger level of efficiency, a stronger power from the data warehouse, the data centers that are being developed today. So that's also a question: do we have enough cloud power to handle all the upcoming data solution and AI solution? And do we assess beforehand the right price for the infrastructure costs and for the data hosting costs in the future? And this is something which is hard to answer, actually, as we do not master the price that will be pushed to us in 2 or 3 years, as it's all geopolitical as well. So this is one element that is the issue of this element is that it's a boring element, so to say. And so our brain has a tendency to avoid it eventually, but it has to be taken into account beforehand.
And I think it's a very fair point. I'm just thinking about a topic which is, I used to, for instance, work with CBCT data. And then you have, as average data set can be between half a giga octet or a gigaoctet, let's say, depending on the quality of the data. We more and more push to host to host the data of the customer, to do some of our analysis, to see things, to actually sell more thing on top of some analysis and some AI on top of it, which is very beneficial. But that's true that also, depending on how you structure your infrastructure and how you want to do things, you also own the data and you are legally liable to host the data for a certain amount of time in case there's an issue. So it can, if you are successful with the product, your running cost can increase pretty incrementally. And then the question is, how do you store the data? How will happen? Like, do you have a cold storage? How do, like, thinking of what's the best and the cost effective way to keep the data for the customers, and what is the exact data you have to keep.
And then it's data governance also. So that's, you really need to assess this beforehand to make sure. And actually, in my when big data arrived, when I was in my previous company, my one of my two former boss, so Francois, he was always joking, saying, "Well, we're not talking about big data on our end. We're talking about smart data." Because we want the targeted data, we want to be pragmatic again. Well, he was a mathematician, he was a statistician, so that's, he had support, obviously. But I think that was a fair approach. Well, this kind of approach also comes with these data governance needs and with these infrastructure costs that you may have in the future with data that can be completely useless in the future. But yeah, this is definitely something to take into account. There was a startup that I was discussing with via the day one, actually, in Basel, and their data strategy. So they had an app to be accessed by the users for medical purpose, and their approach on the data strategy was that everything this in the smartphone, and all the data would be deleted within 48 hours. And so their big strategy was to have no money out of the data. And I found it really refreshing, actually. And I was really, I really respected the approach, because in the end, that's maybe the best way to ensure the trust of the patients, trust of the users. And that's the easiest way to do the proof of concept, and with an easy data governance, so to say.
I think one of the big topics that we have around data product, AI in our industry at the end of the day, is what do we do with real world data that we collect? It's something that has been for a while in the discussion on the mouth in pharma company, in medtech company, because it can bring us a lot of advantage. Could you share some example of real world data product or project you have worked on, and what makes them successful?
Mhm. So the real world project data that I've seen which have been successful have been really well targeted by the business experts for the real needs on the market. Some of the examples I've been observing were on patient journey, actually in the hospital, and how to map the process of the patient in the hospital, as well as map the process of the employees, of the nurse, of the doctors, and how to improve this process with several key performance indicators being taken into account. Not only the financial one, because if you think about that, then you think about ambulatory, you think about lower stay in the hospital, but also in terms of improving the process to ensure that the patients are more connected or feel better connected with the nurse and the doctors. So here, this was a very interesting project which lasted for a few years, which is still running, and which has been actually challenging to do, because to some extent that's like politics as well in terms of user adoption. There you have to really showcase the interest of the solution for all the different stakeholders. You have to ensure that it will be well adopted by everybody, and then pushing the interest for each stakeholder. To the doctor, they're winning time; to the nurse, that they will have less stress and they will be able to manage their activities better. To the patients, that they will be more connected with the personnel of the hospital, and to the hospital, that they will be saving costs also, and they will be able to prove to the insurance that they have a better model for the interest of the patients. So that's one example of project which I believe was a very real world project, really interesting, and that really proved how data would be useful. Here we are not actually talking about AI, because that's mapping of process, and that's building the pipelines. You have to build the infrastructure, the solution, the data product. But then there is no, or there is little analytical activity on this data. So this is an example. Another example I would have in mind was more into a digital solution which has been developed to help the pharma R&D teams being more efficient in their daily work. So having a central solution where all the stakeholder of scientific study would connect in order to bring their expertise and to ensure the quality of the outcomes. And so the idea behind, so but it's still running. The main idea in the beginning was to help the researchers in the design of the studies. So I'm talking early phase development here, preclinical. And so helping them in the design of their studies, they would integrate the information of their study in the solution the biostatistician would go into the solution to validate the sample size and the scientific protocol of the study, the statistical methodology to be used. Then it would be validated based on fair data. And the study would be launched. And then with the outcomes of the results, the analysis would be more efficient. Here, AI could be integrated to some extent at some point, and then automatical analysis based on similar studies that have been happening in the past. And also the data here would have been harmonized via this solution, because the model integrated there would enable a simple harmonization of the data with the final objective of enabling an automatic meta-analysis of the scientists via the solution and comparison of the result of his or her study in two similar studies that have been done in the past. So here you have the interest of all actors, because you have the interest of the researcher who has the carrot, so to say, of the meta-analysis being made in the future with harmonized data. You have the interest of the biostatisticians, who will be sure to be called to do the power analysis before the study launch. You have the interest of the top management, because it's a smoother process, and so on. So these are some actually good example of real world application of data products, which are very pragmatic actually, but which needs a good collaboration between stakeholders and all points of view being taken actually.
That's good. That's exactly also what I discussed in my previous podcast, where it was really about, if you want to provide value anyway, you need to provide value to the whole ecosystem, and not only for the data product, but it seems to be the case here as well. If you cannot provide, if you miss some of the stakeholders, they can be potential blocker at the end of the day for the usage of the product. So no, that's good. That's super nice example that you just provided to us. And in that case, and I'm also wondering, maybe if you have some feedback on experience on that. This is the fact that now we try more and more to push this kind of data product, but also more and more, I see more and more dashboard, for instance, coming to a hospital. How is it received by customers, nurse, clinicians, hospital in general?
Well, it's all about what's the objective of the stakeholder, and if it enables the stakeholder to win time, then it's highly welcome. So if you have one dashboard which exists, which is a central dashboard providing all information about patients, and same information which is interesting for the nurse, for the doctor, and for all the different actors, then it's super interesting and it's super useful. If the doctor has to jump between 5 dashboards, becomes hell because it's just too many information, too many things to check, and that's actually the difficulty in the multiplication of the solution, is that eventually having too many dashboards is becoming too complicated to follow. I mean, we're also having that on our daily life. On my side, I have a personal and a professional smartphone. On each of them, I receive texts, I receive WhatsApp. So these are four channels of communication. Then LinkedIn, then 2 different emails, and it's just a multiplication of channels of communication. It's exactly the same for the different users. So then that's eventually the company, the structure, so the hospital here, that has to lead the way and to decide for one central solution or provider, or one central kind of dashboard, and to lead the way to ensure that the final user are being efficiently supported on their daily work.
Makes total sense. Now that's great. But you think that we still underestimate improving this interoperability on some data because sometimes we just make proprietary file format.
I think that's that's actually a big part of our work on our sites as data experts. It's to create APIs between solutions and to ensure that the solutions are talking to each other efficiently. Then that's the final objective, the final aim. The chance we have today is that in our environment, there are more and more tools that are available in the market. So Python is raising among other, but that's the main solution, which is really interesting today because it naturally imposes itself as a central solution just to help pilot this interoperability. But indeed, the creation of the API and also the maintenance. The maintenance is a key element that is very important. And when you think about maintenance, that's not only maintenance of the system on itself, on the infrastructure, but that's also evolution of the solution of the data product according to the business needs and to the environment, which is also evolving. And it's critical to take this maintenance into consideration for the success of the projects. I mean, long term.
Definitely. And that's the fact that on one hand, I think we need to take into consideration because even if we don't change the product itself, our API or whatever, what we have behind our product, there's so many new solutions coming to the hospital side, to the patient side, that we might have to do some adaptation at the end of the day on how we manage our data. And I have an example coming to my mind right now, very recent. I don't know how much you're into sports, but I know that this huge Garmin and Strava debate about how do you get our data for free, etc., etc. Also, the governance in the background can change because one of the companies is taking more leadership in that regard and can ask more for what you do with the data. And that's a very also interesting aspect. That's an evolving topic. And it's for me, that's why I'll prefer sometimes to say that a product of a project, because for me, a product doesn't have a hand necessarily. It needs maintenance, maybe less effort than at the beginning, but it needs maintenance over time to stay competitive. The second aspect that I think is very important that you basically mentioned is by mentioning API is that we need to basically own the complexity of what we're creating when it comes to collecting data, managing data between all the products that exist to make a smooth workflow to the customer. And I think an API or whatever technical solution in the background is somehow the answer on how we can make it efficient and save time to the customers, better handle things, and in the background, partnering, making sure that we have good solution partner. Also, our solution is fully connected to the environment and the ecosystem of the different hospital. Yeah. No, thanks. Thanks a lot. I think we are arriving towards the end of this episode. That sounds fantastic. Olivier, can you tell us a bit more about Lucid Analytics and how you and your team can help companies with their data product project, where you are available? Can you tell us a bit more?
Definitely. So on our end, so we are a family size company. So we are 3 years old now, but we have the chance of being backed by a bigger group. So the tech firm group, which is a consulting group of 500 people in Switzerland and France. On our side, so we are 30 people. We're, well, actually 30 people, a little bit more than that now, but the company is growing and we're having a good development. And who we are and what do we do? We're basically data experts in the R&D innovation field in the broad life science and healthcare area. What we do is we help our partner exploiting their data, doing the data analysis with bioinformatics, biostatistics, or data science expertise. And we're also here to develop the solution to directly enable them to do this routine analysis with the data architecture and data engineering and software development backgrounds. So kind of building the shell around the algorithm in order to reach their objective and to help them on the long-term run. So what we say is that we're here to help on the datalization of their company, so digitalization on the data area. We're based in Switzerland. We also have a certain level of activity in France. And then we'll see what goes with the flow and how the company keeps on developing. But today, we're really excited because our environment brings us, me and us, very exciting and interesting topics in the science field.
Super. And for whoever wants to get in touch with Olivier, all the information regarding Olivier and the Lucid Analytics will be in the description of this episode. We will also provide you the link of his LinkedIn, and you can also contact me directly if you want his contact. Thank you very much, Olivier, for this episode. I'm very happy to have you today. It was a fantastic description of what a data product is and how we can use them effectively in healthcare. And I'm very happy that we had this episode, and I'm looking forward to see you again.
Thank you, Theo. Thank you very much for this chance, for the invitation, and looking forward to see you around in Basel.
Sure, very soon. And thank you. That's the end of this episode of the Product Clinic podcast, the podcast that help product leader and a marketer to have strategic insight, and develop themselves. So if you have any topic question for the future that you are interested in, don't hesitate to contact me. If you like this episode, please put a like on the episode on LinkedIn, Spotify, or whatever platform you see it. And we are very happy, and we wait for you for the next episode. Goodbye.